we are discussing the lesson Animal Kingdom, wherein in the previous sessions we have discussed about non-chordates. Those are animals which do not have a notochord. In this session we will be discussing about phylum Chordata. These are animals that have a notochord on the dorsal side. Not only that, they also have a dorsal hollow nerve cord. They have post-anal tail. Heart is ventral in position. And some of the animals belonging to chordata, they are well developed and very advanced. They are mostly bilaterally symmetrical, triploblastic, and they have coelom. Digestion is of closed type. Circulation is complete and closed. Digestion is complete, that is, there is separate mouth and anus. Fertilization could be internal or external. They are oviparous or viviparous, and the development mostly is direct. In some cases, larval forms metamorphose into adult forms. These live on land or on water. Most importantly, they show gill slits, and the presence of fins is an important feature of chordates. Some animals have paired fins, whereas some have limbs, and they have muscular heart with 2 chambers, 3 chambers, or 4 chambers. They have specialized organs, kidneys for excretion and osmoregulation. Now, phylum Chordata is further subdivided into 3 subphylum based on the presence or absence of notochord. These 3 subphylums are Urochordata and Cephalochordata. Together, Urochordata and Cephalochordata, they are also called as protochordates. These are exclusively marine, present only in salt water, both Urochordata and Cephalochordata. They are called as protochordates and they are marine in nature. The difference between Urochordata and Cephalochordata is that in Urochordata, the notochord is present only in the larval stages, and present only in the tail. So that is Urochordata, whereas Cephalochordata, notochord is seen throughout the life cycle, right from the larval stage to the adult stage, present throughout their lifetime, and it is present from the cranium to the tail. Throughout the body, entire body, it is present from cranium to tail. So hence they are called as Cephalochordata. Cephalo meaning the head portion or the cranium portion. It is continuously seen. And there is a third subphylum under Chordata, that is Vertebrata. Examples for Urochordata is Doliolum, Acidia, whereas for cephalochordata, we have branchiostoma, also called as Amphioxus, branchiostoma. These are the two subphylums, Urochordata, Cephalochordata, and the third subphylum is called Vertebrata. In Vertebrata, the notochord is seen during the embryo stage. During the developmental stage, we have notochord, whereas when these animals become adults, the notochord is replaced by a vertebral column. So this is the advanced form of notochord present on the dorsal side. So what we have here is the vertebral column. This vertebral column could be either made up of cartilage, or the vertebral column could be made up of bone. In some animals there is a cartilaginous vertebral column, whereas some other animals possess vertebral column made up of bone. So that distinguishes the vertebrata from the Urochordata and the Cephalochordata. Not only that, vertebrata, they have paired gill slits. They also possess either fins or limbs which could be paired. The presence of fin and limbs is seen, and they have a muscular heart with 2, 3 or 4 chambers, and they have kidneys for excretion and osmoregulation. So these are the important features of phylum Vertebrata. Now phylum Vertebrata is very huge, and let us study this subphylum Vertebrata in detail. The subphylum Vertebrata can be further classified into 2 divisions following the hierarchy of classification. We have kingdom Animalia. In kingdom Animalia, we have the phylums starting from Porifera to Hemichordata to Chordata. Below the phylum, we have subphylum Vertebrata, and in subphylum Vertebrata, we have divisions. This division is based on the presence or absence of jaw. So animals in Vertebrata that do not have jaws, they are placed under agnatha, that is no jaws, whereas animals that have jaws are placed under Gnathostomata. So these are the 2 divisions, agnatha without jaw and Gnathostomata with jaws. This division is further subdivided into one class, that is class Cyclostomata, that is the one without jaw and that have a circular mouth. Cyclostomata. Stomata means opening. Cyclo means circular. So these are animals with a circular mouth without any jaw. That is the class under agnatha. Whereas Gnathostomata is divided into 2 superclasses. That is Pisces and Tetrapoda. This is made on on the basis of presence of fins and the presence of limbs. So the superclass Pisces, it includes all the fishes which have fins, and the superclass Tetrapoda, they include all the animals that have paired limbs which will help in movement. Under Pisces, superclass Pisces, we have class Chondritis and class ostic. These are the two classes under Pisces, whereas in Tetrapoda we can classify them into class Amphibia, class Reptilia, class Aves or Avis, and the final class Mammalia. This is how the subphylum Vertebrata is studied under the following heads of division, class and subclasses. We will be studying each one of these classes in detail. So we have class Cyclostomata, class Chondritis, class Ostic, class Amphibia, Reptilia, Aves and Mammalia. Let's discuss about them one by one with their general characteristic features and their unique properties and the animals that represent each of these classes. Under Agnatha, animals without jaws, we have class Cyclostomata. These animals, they look like eels, which are a type of fish. So they have a body like the eel. So as the name says, they have a circular mouth and jaws are absent. These are predominantly marine, present as ectoparasites, meaning they live on the body of other fishes. The body is long and elongated without any scales and fins are absent. Behind the mouth we find 6 to 15 pairs of gill slits which are used for breathing. It is a chordata and the notochord is transformed into a vertebral column. This vertebral column is made up of cartilage and not bone. The circulation is of closed type, meaning blood is transported with the help of blood vessels, arteries and veins. These fishes, they spend most of their adult life in marine environment, but when it is time to lay eggs, that is called as spawning, they migrate to freshwater sources where they spawn. Fertilization is external. Eggs are laid and sperms are released into the water. These eggs hatch, produce the larva. The larva undergo metamorphosis. Once the larva is big enough, they return back to the ocean from where they originally belong to. Examples for Cyclostomata are Petromyzon, also called as lamprey, and Myxine, commonly called as the hag fish. That is the first class, Cyclostomata, animals with a circular mouth and long eel-like bodies without scales and fins. Let us move on to the next one, that is class Chondritis and Ostic, which are placed under superclass Pisces, which means the fishes. Let us first start with class Chondritis. Class Chondritis, if you divide the name, chondros refers to cartilage and ichthyos means fish. So these are cartilaginous fishes. Examples: shark, skate, rayfish, chimera, etc. As you know, these are fishes that have jaw. The jaws have teeth which are bent backwards. The endoskeleton is made up of cartilage which is flexible. Paired fins are present on the sides of the body. They have a aerodynamic body which will help them in swimming in water. Mostly these are marine fishes. If you look at the surface of the body, there are minute scales called as placoid scales which are bent backwards, giving them a rough sandpaper like surface. The jaws have teeth. Teeth can also be said to be modified placoid scales which are bent backwards. Behind the jaw, which is ventral in position, the mouth is ventral in position, we find 5 to 7 of gill slits. The gill slits are not covered by gill cover or operculum, which is a very important distinguishing feature. Also, cartilaginous fish like shark, they have to continuously keep on swimming due to the absence of a swim bladder, whereas class ostic, they have a swim bladder. Another important feature is, if we observe the tail portion, they have a heterocercal tail, as you can see in the diagram. That is, the two sides or portions of the tail are non-uniform. One is longer, one is smaller. That is what is called as a heterocercal tail. And evolutionarily speaking, these animals have not changed much over the past 400 million years. These are represented by sharks, rays. Some animals also produce electricity like the torpedo ray. Some also have poisons like the sting ray. These are viviparous animals. They give birth to their young one. Fertilization is internal, development is direct. Class Osticthyes. Ostos refers to bones, ichthyos refers to fishes. So these are commonly called as the bony fishes, meaning their internal skeleton or the endoskeleton is made up of ossified bones. If you look at the body of the fishes, it is covered with cycloid, ctenoid or ganoid scales which act as the exoskeleton. Mouth is terminal in position. Behind the mouth, there are 4 pairs of paired gill slits. These gills are covered by a operculum. The operculum is present, whereas in chondritis it is absent. And as opposed to chondritis, they have a air bladder or a swim bladder which will help in swimming and as well as in respiration. These are found both in marine water as well as fresh water. If you look at the tail structure of these bony fishes, they have a homocercal tail. Both the shapes are uniform. These fishes are oviparous. They lay eggs in water. Fertilization is external. The hatchlings, they hatch out of the egg. Large number of eggs and sperms are produced in the bony fishes because fertilization is external. Example for bony fish: the rohu, catla, mrigal, betta, which is the fighter fish, which are excellent examples for bony fish. Let us look at the differences between the chondritis and ostic with the help of a diagram. Both cartilaginous fish and bony fishes, they have a aerodynamic body helpful in swimming. The main differences lie in the position of mouth. Cartilaginous fish have ventral mouth, bony fishes have terminal mouth. In cartilaginous fishes, paired gill slits are absent and operculum is absent, whereas in bony fishes, paired gill slits are present and operculum is present. The endoskeleton is made up of cartilage, whereas in bony fish, endoskeleton is made up of bone. If you look at the tail, cartilaginous fish have heterocercal tail, whereas bony fish have a homocercal tail. Cartilaginous fish have placoid scales, whereas bony fish have cycloid, ctenoid or ganoid scales. Cartilaginous fish do not have swim bladder, whereas bony fishes, they have a swim bladder. Cartilaginous fish fertilization is internal and most of them are viviparous animals, whereas in bony fish fertilization is external and most of them are oviparous animals. That is the difference between class Chondritis and class Ostictis. Examples are given in the diagram. Let us now move on to the next superclass, that is Tetrapoda. These are animals that do not have fins but instead they have paired limbs. That is Tetrapoda. First class under Tetrapoda is the Amphibians. Amphi means dual, bios means life. These are organisms that have dual life, that is, they can live both on land and water, hence they are called as amphibians. In the diagram, some representative organisms are given. For example, frog, the toad, the salamanders are representatives of class amphibians. Let us look at a common features of class amphibians. The amphibian body can be divided into a distinct head and a trunk portion. They have moist skin with no scales. Scales are absent. The skin remains moist due to the presence of mucus glands which secrete mucus. This is helpful in swimming. The trunk contains two pairs of limbs. Forelimbs are small, whereas the hind limbs are long and strong, which are used for swimming and jumping. Often the hind limbs are webbed and claws are absent. The amphibians, they are adapted to both aquatic and terrestrial life due to the presence of moist skin, gills and lungs, which is used for breathing and respiration. Digestion is complete with a mouth and external opening called as cloaca. Urinary system, excretory system, circulatory system is well developed. They have a ventral heart with two chambers, auricle and ventricle. These are cold-blooded animals, that is poikilothermous. They are not able to maintain a constant internal temperature. The excretory system, digestive system and reproductive system, they have a common opening called as the cloaca. The external ear is absent. Instead, there is a tympanic membrane or tympanum which is used for sensing sounds. males and females are distinct. These undergo external fertilization and large number of eggs are laid by the females. The egg shell is very thin and membranous. In fact, there is no shell at all. They will dry out if these are not protected. Hence, they lay their eggs near a water source. Development is indirect. That is, the eggs they fertilize, and first there is a larval form. This larval form, they look like mini tadpoles, which will then metamorphose into a adult stage, which is distinctly different. Metamorphosis is a common feature. That is class amphibians, which have no scales on the body and the body is moist. Let us move on to the next class, Reptilia. The word reptile comes from the Latin word reptum, which means to creep or crawl. So reptiles, their characteristic feature is that they creep on ground or they crawl on ground. These are represented by the turtle, tortoise, snakes, lizards, etc., which are examples for class reptiles. Some of the animals have limbs, whereas snakes are limbless. All of these reptiles, they have certain common features. The most common one being they have a dry cornified skin. Sometimes hard scales or scutes are present, which act as a tough exoskeleton. So dry cornified skin is an characteristic feature of class Reptilia. These are cold-blooded or poikilothermous animals. The heart is ventral with 3 heart chambers, 2 auricle, 1 ventricle, except in the crocodiles, which have 4 heart chambers. Digestion is complete, circulatory system is closed. The reptiles, they may possess a long muscular tail which will help in movement as well as in defense. The teeth present in the mouth are of the same shape and size throughout the entire mouth. Coming to reproduction, sexes are separate. There is separate male and a separate female. These are oviparous animals, meaning they lay eggs. The egg have a leathery protective covering. Shell is absent. Fertilization is internal. Development is external. So they also require certain smooth surface for laying the eggs, possibly sand. The development is direct. There is no intermediate larval form. Certain type of pythons, they have what is called as a ovoviviparous type of reproduction, wherein they do not lay the eggs outside, but the young ones hatch inside the body of the python. The young ones are able to take care of themselves immediately after hatching. You can see this during the hatching of the turtle eggs near the beach. As soon as they hatch out of their eggs, they can crawl and reach out to the ocean. This is the class reptiles. Most of them have limbs, whereas snakes do not have limbs. Moving on to the next class, that is commonly called as birds, class Aves. Class Aves, commonly called as birds, they have the characteristic feature of presence of feathers on the body. These feathers are made up of a protein called as keratin. These feathers help in insulating their body from external heat and cold. Looking at the body structure of birds, they have a aerodynamic body design. The four limbs are modified into wings which will help in flying. The mouth is represented by a beak or a bill which helps in gathering of food. The hind limbs are scaly with claws. With these claws will help in perching, holding and capturing of prey. The presence of scales on hind limbs, this goes on to show that birds have evolved from reptiles. The internal endoskeleton is made up of bone. These bones are pneumatic, meaning these are hollow, resulting in the light weight. Because of the presence of pneumatic bones, it will help the bird to fly. The body is very efficient for flying. This contain a ventral 4-chambered heart, 2 auricles and 2 ventricles with double circulation as a distinct feature. These are homeotherms or endothermic animals called as warm-blooded animals, meaning they are able to maintain a constant internal temperature irrespective of the temperature in the environment, called as endotherm or homeotherms, warm-blooded animals. Birds are oviparous, they lay their eggs, fertilization is internal. The eggs have a calcareous shell made up of calcium carbonate which is quite strong. The skin of birds is dry except for the presence of oil glands near the tail. The tail is also covered by feathers which will help in maintaining a direction during flying. Respiration is with the help of lungs. Digestive system is complete with the presence of crop and gizzard. Circulation system is closed. Excretory system is with the help of kidneys. Some birds are flightless, for example ostrich, penguin, etc. Whereas most of the birds, they show flight. So the characteristic feature of birds is the presence of feathers, dry skin and wings which will help in flying. Moving on to the last class Mammalia. Class Mammalia are present in land, water as well as on trees and inside the caves, right from deserts to the polar ice caps to the mountain ranges. We find these mammals everywhere. They show certain important characteristic features. The first one being the presence of body hair, which is not seen in any of the previous classes. This body hair helps them to protect from cold, rain and sun. The presence of mammary glands in female mammals is a distinct feature, after which they are named as mammals. These mammary glands produce milk which will help them to take care of their young ones after birth. External ear called pinnae are present, containing 3 middle ear bones which will help them in good hearing. So these animals, they have oil glands on the body as well as sweat glands which keep the skin moist. These are also homeotherms or warm-blooded animals which are able to maintain a constant temperature. Heart is ventral with 4 chambers, auricles and ventricles. Double circulation is a distinct feature. The Kidneys help in excretion and osmoregulation. Lungs are provided for breathing and respiration. Digestive system is complete with the alimentary canal starting with the mouth and ending in a anus. Reproduction is internal, fertilization is internal. Most of the animals are viviparous, which give birth to their young ones, and they are able to protect and care for their young ones. Exceptional case being the duck-billed platypus, which is a oviparous mammal. It lays eggs. Mammals also show a distinct variety. For example, in the Australian subcontinent, we find kangaroos and Tasmanian wolf, etc., which are marsupials. They have a placental pouch in which the young ones are taken care of. The young ones mostly come fully developed, and they need certain amount of care and protection till the time they are completely developed. Examples of mammals are given in the diagram, right from rabbits, dogs, cats, tiger, wolves, elephant, dolphin, whale, bat are also examples for mammals. So mammals are characterized by the presence of hair on the body and mammary glands. That is the end of the lesson Animal Kingdom, about which we have studied under non-chordata, hemichordata and chordata, starting from porifera and ending with class Mammalia. Thank you.